Welcome to the Midsters Podcast, your podcast for inspiration on being bold and saying yes to making the most out of your midlife. Cheryl, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I think it's wonderful that you found the Midsters and that you listened to an episode. And then through that communication, I was able to learn a little bit about you too. And I think you have a lot to offer our listeners. And I want you to start just introducing yourself to the listeners and telling us a little bit about yourself and where you are now, because there's been some transitions in your life that I think are very interesting.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Well, it's so nice to be here. I appreciate you letting me be a guest. And I'm Cheryl Dillon. I'm a life coach. I am originally from the East Coast, from New Jersey. I lived in Chicago for 5 years, and I've been in California now for 7 years. And I moved here in midlife, not knowing anybody, not having any community. You know, I moved with my husband. Luckily, he's my best friend because it was a lonely couple of years in the beginning. Right after we purchased our house and settled in, it was the pandemic. And so what feels like a good, 2.5 years or so, we were home. And so there really, again, was no opportunity to go out, get involved in the community, make friends. And then even after things lifted, you ever hear the phrase, a body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest stays at rest? For all that time being home, it actually required an awful lot of extra effort to motivate to even get up and get out. And but I really was looking for, some good female friends. I was looking to get more involved in my community. I was experiencing midlife myself, a lot of things happening in your body and your mood and just overall life stuff. And at the same time, I'm a partner in a primary business that I run with my husband. I'm a divorce coach, and he's a divorce mediator, and we've been working together for, 17 years. And even though the work I'm doing is very satisfying, at the same time with all this other stuff happening, I was really just starting to feel a pull that I want to do something else or something in addition that was more joyful and, really fed my soul, met where I was in life and where I could help other women who might be experiencing the same things as me. And so it led me to go back to school and get a certificate in event planning. And then I combined it with my life coaching skills, my life experiences, and I created Funderful Experiences, my new company that started earlier this year. And it's really all about helping women in midlife embrace this chapter, make it joyful, vibrant, meaningful, and really alive with all kinds of possibilities. Instead of getting old and slowing down, I wanted to do the exact opposite.
You're highly motivated for sure. Have you always been that way?
Yes, I am a type A +++. I've always been, very direct, if I want something, I make plans to go find a way to get it. I do actually also have equal bouts of social anxiety, if you could believe it, where, I'm happy to meet strangers. I love the energy from other people, but for every day that I'm interacting with people, I need 2 days at home by myself because it really is interesting. My husband calls me the most extroverted introvert. And so it's really, I think, all about balance, having some solitude and having some, time to kind of recharge so that when I'm out and about and interacting with everybody, it doesn't fully drain me. It does the opposite.
Right. So in your practice now, I'm just interested. I think it's great that you've transitioned to something that's soul fulfilling for you, and it's where you are in life. How do women find you? How do they come to you, and with what issues or what do they want solved that you can help them with?
So for, 15 plus years, I helped individuals, men and women, navigate separation and divorce. And I myself am divorced. It was a long time ago at this point, more than 20 years ago, because I've been married 20 years to my current husband, which I just call my husband. But, for that part of life, after going through a divorce myself, becoming a divorce coach, helping clients navigate through the emotional complexities, and really divorce is such a significant life event. And to really help them take that terrible, painful experience and instead of defining the rest of their lives by it, helping them use it as a catalyst to whatever is their wonderful next chapter that's waiting for them to create. So I really don't believe in failure. I don't believe that the events that happened create your reality for the rest of your life. I really believe actually that those events are gifts and it's what you do with them. And so if you can learn from them, if you can reflect on them, take responsibility, work on yourself, it's a catalyst to really look at things and decide what you don't want anymore or what you do want for the future, and then to start making intentions and taking some steps towards it. Then that painful, big opportunity there, it's not tragic. It's actually the beginning of something very wonderful. It's just that it feels terrible, of course, at the time.
We had a conversation a few days ago, just getting ready for having you on the podcast, and you spotlit something that I think you're going to talk about, and that's how women can live better lives by being a better friend to themselves. And I think Leslie and I talked about it a little while ago, and I shared a few of the things that you had said. Can you just tell us and listeners how you got to that, and maybe just lay out, and we'll have some questions too, but lay out a strategy or a plan for women to be able to do that, because it's not the narrative. It's not the way we naturally or innately live, because we usually give to others and not to ourselves.
Definitely. And that's a really good point. I think many women are raised with these expectations that came from, parent figures, teachers, society, their friends. I think their own life experiences maybe put even more meaning on some of these expectations. And it's so ingrained that for many people, it's difficult for them to realize that they haven't been honoring their own needs. They haven't been prioritizing themselves. And in a way, it contributes to the kind of people and experiences that have come to them in their lives. So I really believe that if you first take responsibility and you have an awareness, because that's the beginning of anything, is just even having this awareness that this is happening, then you get a chance to make some changes or shift how you're thinking or how you're talking to yourself. So I really believe that the foundation to happiness is being your own best friend. And that really, means speaking to yourself, treating yourself, supporting yourself the same way that you would treat and talk to and support the other people in your life that you love. And so if you can direct that inwards, you're not taking it away from them in order to give it to yourself. There's plenty to go around. But if you start by really loving yourself, taking care of yourself, and being such a good friend to yourself, that is the beginning of everything wonderful in your life, because you're going to attract wonderful people, wonderful situations. You're not going to be looking outward for validation anymore. You're not going to be looking for other people to make you happy or to fill gaps that you are not giving yourself, right? Because you'll feel comfortable in your own skin and you will be confident, you'll be calm, you'll worry less, be less anxious. And then really, I believe it just opens up all kinds of possibilities for you.
You said a little nugget that I want to explore just for a minute. You talked about attracting other people in your life, which I automatically think of aura. I think of positive energy. And in reflecting on that, when bad things do happen to some people, but I do believe that if we surround ourselves and create an environment That is positive. I agree with your ideology there. But how does somebody get started in creating their own energy within themselves to get to a place where life may be brighter for them?
It's a different path for everybody, right? We're all on our own journey. For me, I remember when I was in coaching school, 15 years ago, I was learning about some of these principles about, energy, and what you attract is what you get back, and all these kinds of things. And I remember my instructor, she challenged us to start saying, "I love myself," to ourselves, even if it's internally. And I remember in the beginning, I couldn't say it. The words absolutely would not come out of my mouth. It felt so insincere, and I didn't believe it. And she said, "Fake it till you make it." And so I remember I would be in the shower and in my head, "I love myself, I love myself, I love myself." And it was horrible in the beginning, but I really respected this person, and I really wanted to learn, and I wanted to change my own life so I could help other people change theirs. And, to this day, I can say it. It is more comfortable, not all the time. Sometimes I don't like myself, but I still love myself. And so I think the first step for people, not everyone can go right there and fake it till they make it and say those things. So I think if there's a bridge, even if they can say to themselves, "I'm learning to love myself," or "I'm learning to be a better friend to myself," or "I'm doing the best I can," something that is believable and authentic that they can say more confidently, that will help them bridge to going right for it and loving themselves, being able to say it, believing it, and living it. So that's just one tiny little shift, is just changing the way you talk to yourself, the inner monologue, not beating yourself up. We all do it. It's normal. But if that's all you're hearing is this criticism from yourself, then how can you expect other people to not criticize you? Or how can you expect other people to not judge you or to value you if you're not valuing yourself?
How do you suppose, or how do you recommend people deal with, I mean, you were talking about being your own best friend and, taking care of yourself, but women generally, and especially women of my age, I think I'm a little older than you, we were raised and taught to put other people first. And so what goes with valuing myself and being a friend to myself and doing things for myself is a feeling of guilt, because it's kind of going against what I've been trained to do and be. Do you find that people experience that kind of guilt? And if so, how do you recommend that they grapple with that?
Yes, that's a very good point, and it's very common. And by the way, there's no age discrimination in feeling that way, or living that kind of a life. And right, many of us, we've been taught to be the good girl, or we're the responsible child, or we're taught to not speak up or don't make waves, or things like that. And that's your conditioning. So if those are the messages that you've received from a young age, they're going to become part of you. And so to start to shift that conditioning or change those beliefs, again, comes back to first awareness. And then it's changing the narrative, looking at that belief. Where did this even come from? Is this my belief, or is this something that I inherited from my mother, or from someone else? The good news about it is, once you can have the awareness and examine it, you get to choose if that serves you anymore. And if it doesn't, you can either let it go or, change it, shift it in some way. So for example, instead of self-care, feeling selfish, prioritizing your needs, or carving out time for yourself, or putting up boundaries and saying no to other people, even though inside, knee-jerk, you just want to go for it and take care of them, or tend to them, or be there for them. Self-care is not selfish. So maybe that's the shift in the belief that you say to yourself, and that if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be the best you to take care of your loved ones, or you can't be the responsible person or the strong person if you're not first filling yourself up and taking care of yourself. So I think it's examining, where did these beliefs come from, this conditioning? Do they serve you? even if they used to serve you and they don't serve you anymore, great. You get a chance to let them go or to change them in a way that's more empowering for you.
I think that line, self-care is not selfish, might become my new mantra.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You know, think about, you know, a typical day where maybe you didn't get enough sleep, you skipped a meal, or you didn't eat healthy because you were on the run, because you were taking care of something on your checklist or something for somebody else, whether it's your kids or your partner or your boss or, you know, ... your parents. And you feel like you have to go, right? The little Energizer bunny. I have to do everything for everybody. In other words, you're not even able to be present for yourself because you're always doing, and it's just automatic, and you're just going and going. So you're not well rested. You didn't have a healthy meal. You're hungry. You're, you know, probably cranky. You know, you're running on fumes. What are you able to give to somebody else? Maybe you're doing something out of obligation, but you're maybe not doing it so much out of love, and you're not present. And there's a difference. How about a day that you give yourself permission to just go have fun for the day, or get a massage, or watch a silly movie, or read a book, or go in your garden, do something that really brings joy? Then go tend to those things on your list, and you'd be amazed at how much more energy and how much more, you know, how much happier you are as you're doing these things, because you're not seeing them as automatic obligation. I'm just continuing to drain myself. You're full. And so you're able to kind of bring your A game and bring that into everything you do, and, you know, share with everybody else.
What are some other ways that women can learn or can change or transition to being their own best friend?
You know what? After my divorce, I saw a therapist for a while. We had been seeing a marriage counselor, and then at some point, my now ex-husband decided he wasn't going anymore. And obviously, that was my answer about whether or not the marriage was going to be saved. But also, I continued to go see this person because I was getting a lot of value from it. And instead of jumping into another relationship right away, I purposely wanted to be alone. And I wanted to really reflect on what happened. How did this happen? How did I have a marriage like this? You know, what did I do? What's wrong with me? You know, basically that this is what I got. And I certainly didn't want to repeat that in another relationship. So I took responsibility. It was hard because it was easier for me to blame other people, but I took responsibility. What was my role in this? And when I was doing this work, I realized the way I was treating myself and the way I thought about myself, I attracted a partner right on back to me that was as terrible to me as I was being to myself. And it was really a big jolt and upsetting, but also good, because it let me continue to work on that stuff. And I did it for a long time. And like I said, not every day is perfect. Sometimes I'll still beat myself up, or, oh, you look fat in this, or, you know, what's wrong with you? But I really I can have the awareness quick and make that correction very quickly now. And, but I realized, you know, in order to make these changes, it always starts with you. And you have to see something in your life that isn't working usually to be the catalyst. Because if you don't see any problem, there's no impetus to change, right? But if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So if you want something different or better, you have to always start with yourself. Look at yourself. What am I believing? What am I saying? How do I feel about myself? How am I attracting these things? And if you know that that's the foundation for it, it really opens doors to consciously working on these things and making these changes a little bit at a time. You know, just little small steps that are going to bring you in a new direction.
So one thing I'm thinking, listening to your story, and I actually have a similar background. I was married and got divorced and then remarried to my current husband. And when my first marriage broke up, it was very similar. It was like, how did I get here? Like, to someone who doesn't value me. I think when you have that kind of a catalyst and you can make a clear break with the other person that's, sort of taking your attention and your energy away from yourself in a way that's almost easier. But what about people that aren't in the midst of a divorce or thinking about divorcing and are trying to stay in a relationship and trying to make that change, that shift from focusing on the other person or even on the relationship to focusing on self? Because that becomes, I think, a lot harder, right?
It's setting an intention is the first thing. Realizing that there's something in your life that's missing or that you don't like, or, because again, if there's something that's not working anymore, that's usually you start to feel it inside. Something's not quite right here, or I'm longing for something, or I'm missing something, or I don't like what's happening here. Really looking at it a little bit more clearly, reflecting on it, again, taking the responsibility, and possibly getting some professional help. It might be working with a therapist. That's a sign of strength, not weakness, when you seek therapy, because there are people out there that are qualified to help you talk about these things and reframe them and, look at why things are the way they are. And it's really not about blame. It's really about, this is the starting point. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And how do I get there to that new place? So for the women who have trouble prioritizing themselves and it feels so uncomfortable and so unnatural, it really might even be where, they put a rubber band around their wrist and snap it, or they have a little Post-it on their desk, or something to remind them, something that might seem strange, but is necessary for them to remember that either that mantra, right? Self-care isn't selfish, or I'm learning to be a better friend to myself. And it might just be where the first thing is, carving 5 minutes. I had one woman say to me, she stays in the bathroom a little bit longer than is necessary because that's her time. That's time where people aren't coming at her for something. And unfortunately, if that's what she has to do it, that I wish that she could be doing something more fun. But she has an awareness that she needs time for herself and she doesn't know how to take it. And this is the way, at least this first small way, that she can reclaim a couple of minutes to breathe, or a couple of minutes to, I don't know, listen to a podcast or, whatever, meditate, just to, again, start reconnecting back with herself. And I feel like if you can carve out this time for you, even if it's sitting in a chair and just breathing, that you can start to reconnect with yourself, then you can make better decisions because you're more present and you're not on autopilot, just running around being busy.
Cheryl, I want to go back to something that you had said earlier. So I'm kind of going back to the beginning of the process, because you said something that I think is important. You talked about accepting your faults or what you've done, your responsibilities. I think it is very hard for individuals to even start there to move forward. It's hard to look at ourselves and realize we're part of that blame. That's a hard process, I think, for people. And the way you kind of worded it is you first have to accept that what went wrong, what was my part, to be able to move forward to actually forgiving yourself, start loving yourself, and being your own best friend. What would your advice be to people? I mean, that is a barrier. It's a human conditioning of ours that we can't. We always blame first or blame others first. How does someone get to that? Because it sounds like that's what needs to happen first.
Yeah, something that you said just now, though, about blaming, and we all make the best decisions with the information in front of us at the time. So I don't think we all wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to go make a bad decision today, And so that's the thing. There's no blame. It's responsibility, right? What was my role in this? And it's really looking at it with curiosity instead of shame, or it's, why is this person in my life? Or why have I always dated people where this was the same pattern over and over. I think it just starts with curiosity, being curious. Why did that happen? Why is that happening? So you're not beating yourself up, because again, if you do, you're going to perpetuate the not being your own best friend, because if you're beating yourself up and you're feeling terrible, your emotions are going to reflect that, and you're going to continue to make choices that maybe aren't so great for you just because you're feeling terrible. So it's really all about, there are no mistakes. There's only opportunities to learn and grow. We all do the best we can all the time. And sometimes how we got to be how we are, that was all unconscious too. We didn't, purposely decide I'm going to have no self-confidence or I don't feel like I'm worthy. These are messages and conditioning and beliefs that happen from a pretty young age. And I'm not a therapist, of course, but, having worked on some of these things myself, a good therapist can help, uncover a lot of this in a safe space that is, again, more curious instead of blaming or shame.
And I like that. I like that word curiosity and being reflective in that way versus like figuring out you have to figure out what you did. But again, like I said, I think people do have a hard time with that, and that's the place to start. But I love the fact that you brought up curiosity, like how did I get here versus saying, geez, having that negativity in me of trying to figure it out, and just like it does happen to all of us.
Not everybody has this emotional, I don't know if it's just being self-aware, I guess is the best way to describe it. I talk to, we all have people in our lives. Mine, I have lots of them, but the one that comes to mind most easily is my mom. And she's pretty set in her ways, and she's had some of that same conditioning. At first, a lot of things were uncovered, and I really did want to blame her for why I was so messed up, because she basically, ruined my life. But again, I have a lot of compassion. She did the best she could also, and I'm sure she repeated a lot of things that happened to her when she was a girl. It's just it's generational. It just repeats. Mm-hmm. And, we don't go to college on how to be a good parent. We, no one really teaches us other than our own parents or what we see and we think is the right thing to do. And I think we're all just trying to do the best we can, care for the people we love the way we know how. Sometimes those ways we know how are not the healthiest or most wonderful for those people, but it's not necessarily, it's not intentional, And so a lot of people are they're not self-aware. They don't question these things. They're just living their life, mostly on autopilot. Everything is automatic. It's just, this is who I am. And I think maybe what's different I know for me specifically, and maybe for, other women, is something just doesn't feel like it's working, and you just get curious. Maybe you ignore it for a while, years, but it's just kind of comes back. It's still there. Maybe you talk to a friend. You say, is this normal? Do you feel this way? Again, you're just not quite sure. Something just it's not clicking. Something doesn't feel right. If you have self-awareness, if you're willing to be brave and look at some of that stuff, that's really where the magic is. If you're brave to look at it instead of blaming or ignoring or just continuing to live automatically. If you're willing to reflect, look at those things, work through them. Most of us don't want to be uncomfortable. So, people shop or they drink or they do things to distract from feeling those feelings or having to deal with that pain. But if you have the bravery and you're willing to do it, of course, in a supportive space, I truly believe that that's where the real transformation can happen. It's helping you have that awareness.
That's a good point. I agree. It does take courage to look at the whole picture and to look at your part in something. And I love the word curiosity as well. Did you have anything else, Lizanne?
I had one last question for you. In terms of interacting with other people, are there any suggestions that you have for like how to communicate with other people or how to just to engage with other people and reclaim your own self and space in those interactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you start changing, the people around you are going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? What do you mean you're carving a boundary for yourself? You were always there for me. You always dropped what you were doing for me. It's going to be hard for them. And I wrote about that in one of my newsletters. There's Oprah's life coach, Martha Beck. She calls it a change back attack, where you start changing and then the people around you don't like it because they want to be comfortable the way it used to be. And they start to make you feel bad for doing these things differently. And so it's normal. It's not apologizing. I'm sorry, it's not, I'm sorry, but there's no sorry. You're not sorry. You're making a new boundary. You're prioritizing yourself a little bit more. I'm not available right now, but I can help you tomorrow. And then it's not caving in because that was so uncomfortable for you to say, right? It's like you need to kind of try it on for size, do it in a way. Maybe you're saying it to someone where it's low risk, maybe not to a partner or a child or a boss. Maybe you're doing it, I don't know, some acquaintance. And you say, I'm not available for that, but I'm happy to help you next week. Or I have too much on my plate right now. Take one thing, just try it on, practice, and see how it feels. I'm sure most of the time, the other people are going to say, oh, okay, no problem. You're the one that thinks it's going to be a big, horrible thing. And so if you get that neutral feedback or you don't get any pushback, that builds momentum. Then go do it again. Keep doing it until it feels more comfortable, number one, for you. And once you're more comfortable doing it, it will be easier for you to stay in your integrity when you're saying it to other people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Well, you've given some great advice today. Thank you for being here, Cheryl. We'll follow up. We're going to wrap up now. Is there anything else that you want to leave with listeners before we do that?
If listeners, are feeling these things, looking for more, something's not working, trust yourself and get curious and continue to explore it. And also, if there's any resonance with me or my messages or my tone or approach, I write a free newsletter called The Uplift, and they can subscribe on my website. It goes out every Thursday. And it might be the good little steps to take because I share a story mostly from my own life. I talk about what I did to address it. I offer a reflection for the reader and then something called Try It. And I give them one little challenge for the week, something that's a baby step for them to try or to do or to practice. Hopefully it, adds a lot of value and helps them gain some momentum.
Can you tell listeners your website where they can find you?
Yes. It's called Funderful Experiences. So it's like wonderful plus fun, funderfulexperiences.com. And the newsletter is The Uplift, and there's a big button in the top right to subscribe.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. We'll follow up. I'll follow up with you, but I appreciate your time. I know it's early in your time zone, and thanks for waking up with us.
Thank you, Marianne and Leslie Ann. It was wonderful to be with you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.